My name is Riley Thompson, and I'm 30 years old. The mess that unfolded at my brother's birthday bash is still buzzing through our tight-knit Atlanta suburb like wildfire. Picture it. 50 relatives packed into the backyard, burgers sizzling on the grill, kids splashing in the pool. My mom's palm connecting with my cheek so hard my shades went flying into the water with a splash that echoed like a gunshot. Why? Because I flat out refused to empty my $150,000 savings account right then and there during the cake cutting to buy Jordan his dream Ford F-150. In that split second, as my face stung and the yard went dead quiet, I felt the betrayal hit deeper than the slap. Years of being the family afterthought boiling over. How could the people who raised me turn on me like that, all for a truck? But hold up, that's not even the wild part. When my boss, the head honcho at the regional bank, popped up on a video call half an hour later, my mom's gasp cut through the humid air like a siren. This wasn't just any suit. He held a hefty 35% stake in Dad's auto repair shop, the one keeping the family afloat, and he had some pointed things to say about what he'd caught on that Instagram live stream. Deep down, as the chaos swirled, I wrestled with that old tug of war, loyalty to the folks who'd always favored Jordan versus standing up for the life I'd scraped together on my own. It felt like my heart was caught in a vice, squeezing tighter with every judging stare. And before we get back to the story, would you be kind enough to give this video a like? You know, every single like means a lot to me. It's the kind of encouragement that keeps me creating and bringing you even better stories tomorrow. Where are you tuning in from? Drop your city and the time in the comments. Love connecting with folks who get these family showdowns. Let me take you back to that sunny Saturday afternoon when I thought I was just rolling up for a casual get-together, no drama on the horizon. I pulled into my parents' driveway in our suburban Atlanta cul-de-sac just after noon, the sun high and the air thick with the promise of a classic Georgia summer day. The backyard was already buzzing, a picture-perfect setup for Jordan's 28th birthday. Red, white, and blue balloons bobbing in the breeze, a smoker pumping out the sweet smell of ribs, and a bounce house wobbling with kids' laughter. I'd wired $5,000 weeks ago to cover the caterer and that local cover band Mom insisted on, but you'd think I'd just shown up empty-handed. Nobody mentioned my name when they gushed about the spread. Typical. I stepped out of my hybrid SUV, smoothing my light blue sundress. Simple, comfortable, something I'd wear to a casual Friday at the bank. My phone buzzed in my purse, a quick text from my assistant. "Your fortress awaits, boss." A photo of my condo's balcony view, coffee mug catching the morning light. I smiled. That savings account, $150,000, hard-earned, was my fortress, not some piggy bank for family favors. "Riley, there you are." Mom's voice cut through the hum of early guests, her eyes scanning my outfit like it was a personal affront. "That dress, honey, couldn't you pick something a little more festive? You look like you're auditing a barbecue, not celebrating your brother's big day." Her floral blouse fluttered as she adjusted a tray of deviled eggs, her smile tight. I forced a grin, brushing off the jab like I'd done 1,000 times. "Hey, Mom, the yard looks amazing. Jordan's gonna flip." She lit up, sidestepping my compliment. "Oh, your brother's already over the moon. Did you hear? He's up for a supervisor spot at the warehouse. Real steady work. Not like some folks chasing pipe dreams." The dig landed, sharp and familiar. Jordan was always the golden child, charming, easygoing, the son who could do no wrong. Me? Too driven, too career-focused, too much like I was trying to outshine the family name. I flashed back to 5 years ago, 25 years old, sitting in their living room after Jordan totaled his first car, a hand-me-down Chevy they'd bought him right out of high school. I'd just landed my first promotion, assistant manager at First Regional Bank, scraping by on student loans I was still paying off. Dad had pulled me aside then, his voice low. "Riley, we're a bit tight. Could you float us a couple grand for Jordan's new ride? Family steps up. I'd written the check. No questions, even though it meant eating ramen for a month. They never paid me back. Never mentioned it again. Jordan got his car, and I got a pat on the back for being practical. Standing there now, I shook off the memory, fingers tightening around my purse strap. That was then. This was my line in the sand. "Riley, can you help with the tables?" Dad called from the patio, wiping his hands on a Braves apron. "But don't go rearranging everything like you do at that bank of yours." His chuckle carried that same old edge, like my knack for order was a personality flaw. I glanced at the setup, kids' table too close to the smoker, Aunt Karen's crew stuck in the shadeless corner. A mess, but calling it out would just paint me as the uptight one. Again. "Sure, Dad," I said, grabbing a stack of napkins. As I straightened a tablecloth, Aunt Karen waddled over, her iced tea sweating in her hand. "Riley, still working those long hours at the bank? Must be exhausting, all that number crunching. Not like Jordan, he's out there lifting real weight, making things happen." She patted my arm, her pity dripping like condensation. "I'm doing all right, Aunt Karen," I replied, keeping my voice even. What they didn't know, what I'd kept quiet, was that I wasn't some teller counting pennies. I was branch manager at First Regional, greenlighting loans that kept local businesses alive, steering deals across 3 counties. But here, that was just Riley's desk job, a footnote to Jordan's warehouse hustle. Dad sidled up, clapping my shoulder. "Family first, Riley, always. You'll get it when you've got your own to look after, if you ever take a break from that office to start one." The jab stung, same as it always did. At 30, my bare ring finger was apparently a bigger crime than any corner office I'd earned. I nodded, folding napkins with precision, letting the chatter swirl around me. The family script never changed. Jordan, the pride and joy. Me, the overachiever who'd missed the memo on settling down. As I adjusted a centerpiece, I caught whispers from the cousins setting up chairs. "Riley's still flying solo, huh? All that time at the bank, and no guy to show for it. Poor Linda. At least she's got Jordan to make her proud." The words pricked, but I kept my hand steady. I could have spilled about the 2 guys I'd dated this year, both of whom bailed when they realized my paycheck outstripped theirs. Could have mentioned the nights I'd spent closing deals that saved family farms while Jordan partied. But why waste my breath? They'd already written my story. The backyard filled up, string lights flickering on as the sun dipped. I stood by the smoker, flipping burgers no one asked me to, the heat warming my face. My phone pinged again. Another bank alert, interest posted to my savings. That $150,000 wasn't just numbers on a screen. It was years of 60-hour weeks, of saying no to vacations, of proving myself in a room full of suits who'd underestimated me. It was my safety net, my proof I didn't need their approval or their handouts. And if I handed it over to Jordan for his shiny new truck, what did that make me? The family ATM, always on call for their golden boy. I wasn't about to let that happen. Not today, not ever. But as I glanced at Mom, beaming at Jordan as he tossed a football with the kids, a knot tightened in my gut. Something was brewing, and I had a sinking feeling I was about to find out what. As the string lights twinkled to life against the deepening blue sky, the backyard swelled with more relatives trickling in, cousins hauling coolers, uncles cracking open beers, the air thick with charcoal smoke and easy laughter. I kept flipping burgers at the smoker, the sizzle a steady rhythm against the growing chatter. Nobody had asked me to man the grill, but it gave me something to do. A way to blend into the background while that knot in my gut twisted tighter. Mom was still beaming at Jordan, her pride radiating like the patio heaters kicking on. He lobbed the football with that effortless charm, kids scrambling after it, and for a split second, I envied how he fit so seamlessly into this world, their world. "Riley, hun, lend a hand with these chairs?" Dad called over, his voice booming as he unfolded a lawn chair with a metallic snap. He set it down crooked, but I let it slide, walking over to help. As I straightened it, he leaned in, that familiar mix of aftershave and garage grease hitting me. Family first, always, kiddo. You'll figure that out someday, when you've got your own brood to chase around. If you ever hit the brakes on that bank gig long enough to start one, that is. His words landed like a casual pat on the back, but they carried the usual sting, implying my life was somehow stalled without a ring or a minivan. I nodded, keeping my face neutral, hands busy adjusting the chair's legs. Inside, though, it churned. Why did every family gathering circle back to this? My choices reduced to footnotes in their story of what a good life looked like. Aunt Karen sidled up then, her plastic cup of sweet tea sweating in the humidity, her floral muumuu fluttering like a flag in the breeze. "Frank, give her a break," she said, but her tone dripped with that faux sympathy, her eyes twinkling with amusement rather than defense. "Not everyone's as lucky as Jordan, snagging a solid job and talking about popping the question soon. Riley's just particular, that's all." She turned to me, patting my arm like I was a lost puppy. "Still no +1 today, sweetie? All those hours cooped up in that office? You'd think you'd bump into some eligible bachelor at the water cooler." The jab wrapped in concern, classic Aunt Karen. I forced a smile, the heat from the smoker still warming my back. "I'm good, Aunt Karen. Work keeps me busy." But her words poked at old wounds. I thought about the 2 guys I'd dated this year. Mark, the accountant who ghosted after I closed a big loan deal that outshone his quarterly report, and Dave, the teacher who joked I was too corporate before bailing when I canceled a date for a late-night client crisis. Both couldn't handle a woman whose success cast a longer shadow than theirs. Being single wasn't a failure. It was a choice, one that let me build without apologies. But here, in this yard, it was just another strike against me. Cousin Mike wandered over next, beer in hand, his Braves cap tilted back. He grinned, that smug look he'd perfected since we were kids. "Hey, Riley, maybe if you spent less time buried in spreadsheets and more time out in the real world, you'd have someone to bring to these shindigs. Jordan's got it figured. Warehouse life, steady pay, girlfriend on his arm. That's the ticket." Laughter rippled from the nearby group, Uncle Bob nodding along, a few cousins chuckling into their cups. The words hung in the air, casual but cutting, turning my career into a punchline. I wanted to fire back, to spill about the multi-million-dollar loans I'd approved that kept farms like Uncle Bob's afloat during the downturn. Wanted to mention the Employee of the Year plaque on my office wall, earned through 60-hour weeks while Jordan bounced between gigs. But what was the point? They'd twist it, make it sound like bragging, so I bit my tongue, flipping another burger, the grease popping like tiny fireworks. Silence was my armor. Let them think what they wanted. Deep down, though, the psychological tug-of-war raged. Part of me screamed to set the record straight, to shatter their cozy narrative. The other part whispered to hold back, knowing the truth would only spark more resentment. Why rock the boat when they'd already cast me as the outsider? As the group dispersed, chatting about Jordan's latest warehouse stories, my mind drifted to that savings account again, the real symbol of what I'd built. Not some flashy penthouse, but a rock-solid $150,000 nest egg, padded with bank-matched contributions and years of smart investing. It was my escape hatch, my proof that I didn't need their validation or their safety net. 8 years climbing from teller to branch manager. Late nights poring over loan apps, weekends at seminars, deals that made headlines in local biz rags. That money wasn't luck. It was sweat, the kind they'd never see. And tucked in my employee contract was that quiet safeguard Harlan had insisted on. A clause protecting against family pressure on personal assets. He'd slipped it in during my last review, saying, "You never know when kin might overstep." I'd laughed it off then, But now, with the party humming around me, it felt like a lifeline. If things escalated, it could activate, giving the bank grounds to intervene. I glanced at my phone, the bank alert still glowing. Another deposit. My fortress, indeed. The whispers picked up again as more folks arrived, the escalation subtle but building. Aunt Karen murmuring to a cousin about how Riley's too independent for her own good. Dad joking with Uncle Bob that she'll come around when she realizes family's all that matters. Each comment layered on, like bricks in a wall closing me in. I kept my cool, plating burgers with steady hands, but inside, the fight brewed, loyalty versus self-preservation, their expectations clashing with my reality. As Jordan high-fived a kid after a catch, Mom's laughter ringing out, I wondered how much longer I could play along before the storm hit. The backyard was alive now, a full-blown hum of cousins hauling in potato salad, kids darting through the bounce house, and the cover band tuning up with a twangy riff. I stepped away from the smoker, wiping my hands on a napkin, the knot in my gut still twisting from the earlier jabs. Mom's pride in Jordan, Aunt Karen's pity, Dad's nudge about family first. The string lights glowed brighter as the sun dipped lower, casting a warm haze over the Atlanta cul-de-sac. I grabbed a soda from the cooler, the cold can grounding me, but the whispers from the crowd kept coming, each one a little sharper, a little heavier. I caught Jordan's laugh across the yard, loud and easy, as he tossed back a beer with Uncle Bob. Their world spun on without me, and I was starting to wonder if that was by design. Uncle Bob broke away from the group, ambling over with his trademark limp from an old garage injury, his flannel shirt stained with barbecue sauce. "So, Riley," he started, voice gravelly, "how's that little savings account of yours holding up? Gotta be tough, scraping by on a bank teller's paycheck, huh?" He chuckled, like it was a friendly jab, but his eyes had that glint, testing me, waiting for a crack. I set the soda down on a picnic table, steadying my breath. "It's solid, Uncle Bob. Been building it for years." His brows shot up, skeptical, and the cousins nearby, Mike and his sister Jenna, perked up, leaning in like they'd caught the scent of gossip. "Solid?" Bob echoed, grinning. "What's that mean for a gal like you? A few grand tucked away for a rainy day? Don't go dreaming too big now, kid." Laughter rippled from the group, light but cutting, like they were all in on the joke. I straightened, voice calm but firm. "It's more than a few grand. I've been smart with it." The truth, $150,000, every cent earned through late nights and closed deals, burned on my tongue, but I held back. Telling them wouldn't change their script. It'd just make me the show-off. Jordan sauntered over, his new flannel shirt crisp, his grin wide as he caught the tail end of the conversation. "Oh, come on, Riley. You're still talking up that nest egg?" he teased, tossing an arm around Mom, who'd just joined the circle with a tray of cornbread. "Last year, she swore she was getting some big promotion. What's next? A private jet?" The crowd chuckled, Mom included, her eyes crinkling like this was all good fun. "Riley's always been a dreamer," she said, setting the tray down, her tone sweet but laced with that familiar edge. "Nothing wrong with ambition, but family keeps you grounded. Jordan knows that. He's working hard, saving for his future, not chasing some fantasy." The words hit like a slap, framing my hustle as a flaw, something selfish. I opened my mouth to correct her. Branch manager, not dreamer. Loans that saved businesses, not fantasies. But Jordan cut in, smirking. "Yeah, Ma. Riley's probably got enough for a fancy coffee maker, tops." More laughs, louder now, like I was the punchline at my own brother's party. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a lifeline pulling me from the fray. I slipped it out, keeping it low. A text from my assistant, Tara. "Your fortress at dusk. Wish you were here, boss." Attached was a photo of my condo's balcony, the Atlanta skyline glowing gold, my favorite mug perched on the railing. That savings account wasn't just money. It was that view, that freedom, the life I'd built without leaning on anyone. 8 years of grinding, from teller to running a bank branch, approving deals that kept shops like Dad's alive. It was my anchor, not some fairy tale. I typed a quick reply, soon, and tucked the phone away, the image stealing me. I could have shown them the bank app, the balance clear as day, or mentioned the financial advisor who'd pitched me for a profile in Georgia Business Monthly. But they'd laugh that off too, call it a stretch. "No shame in keeping it simple, Riley," Uncle Bob said, misreading my silence as defeat. "Not everyone's cut out for the big leagues. Stick to what you know." I nodded, letting him think he'd won. Inside, though, my resolve hardened. This wasn't just about money. It was about who got to define my worth. Mom chimed in, her voice carrying over the crowd. "Riley's always been her own worst enemy, too stubborn for her own good. Jordan now, he's got his head on straight, building something real." The comparison stung, but I kept my face blank, stacking plates on the table like it was just another task. For a second, I considered laying it all bare. My title, my deals, the clause in my contract that Harlan, my boss, had slipped in to protect my assets from family overreach. If pressure mounts to transfer funds under duress, he'd said, this kicks in. A legal shield tied to my bank-matched savings, ready to snap into place. I'd thought it was overkill then, but now, with their jabs piling up, it felt like a trump card I might need. I didn't say a word, though. Just smiled, nodded, let them think I was folding. Inside, I was done playing their game. The party rolled on, music picking up, but the air felt heavier now, like the calm before a storm I couldn't quite see coming. The music kicked up a notch, the cover band's twangy rendition of Sweet Home Alabama, filling the backyard as the crowd grew louder, plates piling with ribs and cornbread. I slipped away from the picnic table, the sting of Uncle Bob's words and Jordan's smirk still lingering like smoke in the air. The Atlanta sunset painted the sky orange, string lights casting a soft glow over the cul-de-sac. But that heavy feeling in my chest only tightened. I drifted toward the drink station, pouring myself another soda, the fizz a small distraction from the chatter swirling around me. Mom's voice cut through the noise, bright and proud, as she held court near the bounce house, a cluster of neighbors and cousins hanging on her every word. Jordan stood beside her, basking in the spotlight, his grin wide as ever. I stayed on the edges, invisible as usual, but their words carried, sharp and clear. "Our Jordan's really making us proud," Mom gushed, her floral blouse fluttering as she gestured toward him. "Got that supervisor spot in his sights at the warehouse, working overtime, saving up for a house with his girlfriend. Can you believe he's already talking about a ring? He's building a real future, the kind that keeps a family strong." The crowd nodded, murmuring their approval, a few clinking beer bottles in a toast. "That's the way to do it," a neighbor said. "Solid guy, that Jordan." Mom beamed, her eyes never once flicking my way. My name didn't even come up, not a whisper about the $5,000 I'd wired for this party, or the discounted tires I'd arranged for Dad's shop through my bank connections, or the low-interest credit card I'd hooked Jordan up with last year when he was drowning in debt. Nothing. It was like I didn't exist unless they needed something. I sipped my soda, the cold biting my throat, and thought back to those late-night calls from Mom, asking for just a little help to cover Jordan's bills or Dad's shop upgrades. I'd always stepped up, no questions asked, draining my own savings to keep their world spinning. But here, in this yard, I was just the shadow in Jordan's glow. I leaned against a patio post, the wood cool against my back, and let my mind wander to those contributions they'd never see. That $5,000 for the caterer wasn't pocket change. It was my bonus from closing a $3 million loan for a local farm, one that kept 20 jobs alive during the pandemic. The tires for Dad's shop? A favor I'd pulled from a client who owed me for fast-tracking his business line of credit. And Jordan's credit card? I'd vouched for him with my bank's underwriters, even though he'd missed payments before. Each move was a quiet lifeline, but they didn't register. Not when Jordan's warehouse shifts and softball games were the family's pride and joy. The thought twisted like a knife. I'd built my life brick by brick, but to them, it was just a footnote to Jordan's story. The band switched to a slower tune, and I caught a snippet of conversation from the other side of the patio. Mom's voice dropped low, meant for Dad alone, but the breeze carried it to me as I lingered near the drink table. "After the cake, Frank, we'll spring it on her," she murmured, her back to me as she adjusted a stack of napkins. "Make it public so Riley can't wiggle out. She's got that savings, plenty to spare for Jordan's truck." Dad nodded, his eyes darting toward the crowd, oblivious to me standing just 10 feet away. "You sure she'll go for it?" he whispered, voice rough. "She's stubborn, but with everyone watching, she'll cave. Always does." Mom's laugh was sharp, cutting. "What'd she need all that money for anyway? No husband, no kids, just her fancy job in that empty condo? Jordan's got a real life to build." The words hit like a punch, cold and deliberate, stripping my worth to nothing but a bank balance they could raid. No family of my own, so what was my hustle worth? The cruelty of it burned, fueling a fire I hadn't realized was smoldering. My hands tightened around the soda can, the aluminum denting slightly. The escalation from their usual jabs to this calculated ambush was a gut check. I'd always swallowed their slights, played the good daughter, the reliable sister. But this wasn't just another dig, it was a setup. They'd planned to corner me in front of 50 people, banking on my silence to save face. My phone buzzed, another bank alert. Interest posted to that $150,000 savings, my fortress. It wasn't just money. It was my independence. My proof I didn't need their approval, and now they wanted to strip it away like it was theirs to claim. Inside, the fight roared. Give in to keep the peace, like always, or draw a line and let the chips fall. I set the can down, my resolve hardening like steel. They thought I'd fold under pressure, but they were about to learn I wasn't the pushover they'd counted on. If you've ever felt erased by the people who should see you most, drop "I get it" in the comments. That sting of being overlooked. It's real, and it's fuel. Stick around, because what's coming next is when their plan starts to unravel. The band shifted to a lively cover of Wagon Wheel, the crowd's chatter blending with the twang of guitars as the Atlanta evening settled in, warm and sticky. I stood by the drink table, the dented soda can still in my hand, Mom's words echoing in my head like a bad song on repeat. No husband, no kids, just her fancy job and that empty condo. The sting of her plan to ambush me with my savings burned hotter than the patio heaters. I scanned the backyard, 50 relatives laughing, clinking glasses, oblivious to the setup brewing. Jordan tossed a football with a cousin, his grin wide, while Mom adjusted the cake table, her smile tight and calculated. My resolve was steel now, but my stomach churned. They thought they could corner me, make me the good daughter who'd cave under pressure. They were dead wrong. A sharp clink-clink cut through the noise, Dad tapping his beer bottle with a fork, standing on the patio like a king addressing his court. The band paused mid-chord, heads turning, kids slowing in the bounce house. "Folks, gather round!" Dad's voice boomed, his Braves apron still smudged with barbecue sauce. "Before we cut Jordan's cake, Linda and I got something special to share." My heart sank, the knot in my gut twisting tight. This was it, their move. I set the soda down, hands steady, but inside, it was a tug of war. Play along to keep the peace, or stand my ground and let the fallout come. Mom stepped up beside him, her eyes glinting with purpose, and I knew I wasn't dodging this one. "As y'all know, family's thicker than water round here," Dad said, grinning wide, his arms sweeping over the crowd. "And we'd do anything for our kids' happiness." He paused, locking eyes with Jordan, who stood near the cake table, playing coy. "That's why we're thrilled to announce that Riley's stepping up big time. She's handing over her savings to get Jordan that Ford F-150 he's been eyeing for his new gig. The backyard erupted. Claps, whoops, a few, "That's our girl!" shouts from the aunts. Jordan pumped his fist, his shock so rehearsed I could have called it from a mile away. His girlfriend, Sarah, clapped wildly beside him, her ponytail bouncing. "Oh my God, Riley, really? The truck?" Jordan yelled, his voice carrying over the cheers. Every eye swung to me, standing by the drink table, a paper plate of uneaten ribs in my hand. The setup was perfect. Public, loud, designed to make refusal look like betrayal. I caught glimpses of my work network in the crowd. A client from Dad's shop, my boss's accountant friend, all expecting me to smile and play along. My pulse hammered, but I kept my face blank, weighing my move. I set the plate down, slow and deliberate, and stood tall. The cheers faded, leaving an uneasy hum. "Hold up," I said, voice clear, cutting through the music's echo. Dad's grin faltered, just for a second. "What's that, hun?" he asked, louder now, like he could steamroll me with volume. "You're giving Jordan your savings for his truck, right? Like we talked about." The crowd leaned in, murmurs starting. "We never talked about this," I said, calm but firm, each word landing like a stone. Whispers rippled. What's she saying? Is she serious? Jordan's face shifted, his fake surprise morphing into something sharper. "Riley, come on, don't do this," he said, stepping closer, his tone half pleading, half accusing. "It's my birthday. You're really gonna make a scene?" Mom grabbed the mic from the band's setup. Yeah, they had one for karaoke later, her voice booming. "Riley, it's a family gift. Don't be selfish." The word hung heavy, drawing gasps from the aunts. I locked eyes with her, my resolve like iron. "It's my money, Mom. I didn't sign off on this." The murmurs grew louder, a mix of shock and judgment. Selfish? At Jordan's party? What's wrong with her? Sarah stepped forward, her voice soft but pointed. "Riley, we'd make good use of it, I swear. It'd mean so much for Jordan's new job." Her peacemaker act was smooth, but it only fueled the fire in me. "I'm sure you would," I said, not budging. "But my savings isn't up for grabs." For a moment, I wavered, the weight of 50 stares pressing hard. Part of me wanted to smooth it over, say we'd talk later, keep the peace like always. I even started to nod, my lips forming a weak, "Maybe we can," before I caught myself. No, that was the trap. Agree now, get cornered later. My savings was my fortress, built from years of grinding, not some family slush fund. I straightened, voice steady. "No deal," I said, final. Dad's jaw tightened, his bottle clinking against the table. "Riley, don't be stingy on your brother's big day," he said, loud enough for the neighbors to hear. "It's just money. You can save more." I shot back. "Then y'all chip in for the truck." Gasps spread, sharp and quick, like a match hitting dry grass. A fork clattered to the ground. Sarah's eyes widened, and Jordan's face darkened, his nice guy mask slipping. The crowd shifted, some muttering support for Jordan, others whispering about my nerve. I spotted Cousin Mike by the cooler, his phone propped up, the red dot of a live stream glowing. My heart skipped. This wasn't just a family spat anymore. It was going public, fast. Mom's voice cracked through the mic. "Riley, this is about family. Don't make it ugly." Ugly? They'd planned this ambush, banking on my silence. I wasn't the one making it ugly. The air felt electric, the tension coiling tighter, and I knew this was only the start of the storm. The backyard crackled with tension, the band's last notes fading into a heavy silence as my words, "Then y'all chip in for the truck," hung in the air like smoke after a firecracker. 50 pairs of eyes bored into me, the string lights casting long shadows across the Atlanta cul-de-sac. Mom clutched the karaoke mic, her face a mix of shock and fury. while Dad's beer bottle trembled in his grip. Jordan's jaw was tight, his nice guy act crumbling, and Sarah, his girlfriend, stood frozen, her peacemaker smile gone. The crowd's murmurs grew sharper, a chorus of disapproval. How could she? At his party? Cousin Mike's phone, propped on the cooler, blinked its red dot, live streaming the whole mess to who knows how many. My pulse pounded, but I stood tall, the weight of their stares heavy as a Georgia summer storm. They'd planned to box me in, but I wasn't folding. Not for their script, not for Jordan's truck, not for anything. Aunt Karen broke the hush, her voice shrill as she stepped forward, sweet tea sloshing in her cup. "Riley, come on now. Don't be so cold. Family helps family. It's what we do." Her tone was all Southern charm, but her eyes were daggers. Uncle Bob chimed in, his flannel shirt straining as he crossed his arms. "She's right. Jordan needs that truck for work, for his future. What are you hoarding all that cash for anyway? Ain't like you've got a family to spend it on." The jab landed hard, echoing Mom's cruel whisper from earlier, and the crowd murmured louder, nodding along. Greedy. Selfish. The words floated from the aunts and cousins, each one a brick in their wall of pressure. Cousin Jenna, Mike's sister, piped up from the picnic table. "Lighten up, Riley. It's not like you can't save more with that fancy bank job of yours." Her smirk mirrored Jordan's, like this was all a game I was losing. The escalation was relentless, their voices piling on, trying to drown me out. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a sharp vibration cutting through the noise. I slipped it out, keeping it low, and glanced at the screen. A text from Harlan, my boss. "Caught the live feed. Ready when you are." My heart skipped. The live stream, Mike's damn phone, was broadcasting this ambush to the world. I scanned the yard and spotted it, that red dot still glowing, now with a dozen notifications piling up on my lock screen. This wasn't just family drama anymore. It was public and fast. Another text popped up, this time from Lisa Chen, a client whose distribution business I'd saved with a loan last year. "Riley, saw the stream. What's going on? Concerning behavior from your folks." My stomach lurched. My work world was colliding with this mess, and fast. I tucked the phone away, my mind racing. Part of me wanted to blurt out the truth. Branch manager, not teller. 150,000 earned through years of grinding. A clause in my contract that could shut this down. But I stopped short, biting my lip. Spilling now would just escalate things, give them more ammo to twist my success into arrogance. Mom's voice snapped me back, booming through the mic. "Riley Thompson, you're making a spectacle of yourself." She stepped closer, her floral blouse flapping, her face flushed red. "This is your brother's day, and you're turning it into your little standoff. Just hand over the savings. It's not like it's doing you any good sitting there." The crowd leaned in, some nodding, others whispering, their judgment a suffocating weight. "It's my money," I said, voice steady, though my hands clenched at my sides. "I worked for it. It's not up for grabs." Mom's eyes narrowed, her voice dropping to a hiss, but the mic caught every word. "You've always been so damn selfish, Riley. Jordan's building a life, something you wouldn't understand, with your empty condo and no one to come home to." The insult cut deep, raw, and personal, and the crowd gasped, some shifting uncomfortably. The escalation wasn't just public now. It was vicious, stripping me bare in front of everyone. Sarah stepped in again, her voice softer but insistent. "Riley, please, we'd pay you back, I promise. It's just a truck. It'd mean the world to Jordan." Her eyes were wide, almost pleading, but I saw the calculation behind them, banking on my guilt. "I'm not a bank," I shot back, sharper than intended. "If it's just a truck, why is it my job to fund it?" More gasps, louder now, and Jordan threw up his hands, playing the victim. "Wow, Riley, way to make it all about you," he said, loud enough for the mic to catch. The crowd's murmurs turned to outright chatter. "She's unbelievable. Poor Jordan." I caught Mike adjusting his phone, zooming in, the live stream racking up views. My phone buzzed again. Another client, Tom Harris, a contractor. "Riley, this is wild. You okay?" The outside world was watching, and I was holding the line, but the pressure was crushing. For a split second, I almost caved, the words, "let's talk later," forming on my lips. A false promise to de-escalate, to slip back into the good daughter role. But I caught myself. The memory of that $150,000 flashing in my mind. My fortress, built from years of late nights, closed deals, and a career they'd never understand. I wasn't their ATM, and I wasn't backing down. "No," I said, voice like steel. "My savings stays mine." Mom's face twisted, the mic amplifying her sharp intake of breath. The crowd hushed, sensing the shift, and I felt the ground tilt under me, like I'd just lit a fuse. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. Thinking completed. No response. The backyard was a pressure cooker, the air thick with the crowd's murmurs and the faint hum of string lights overhead. Mom's hiss through the karaoke mic. "You've always been so damn selfish, Riley." Still echoed, her words slicing through the Atlanta night like a blade. My final stand, "my savings stays mine," had silenced the chatter. 50 relatives frozen, their eyes darting between me, Mom, and Jordan's darkening scowl. Cousin Mike's phone, propped on the cooler, blinked its red live stream dot, broadcasting every second of this showdown. My phone buzzed relentlessly in my pocket. Clients, colleagues, strangers piling on. But I stood, rooted, heart hammering, the weight of their judgment crushing. Mom's face twisted, her floral blouse catching the light as she stepped off the patio, closing the gap between us. The band's instruments sat quiet, the bounce house deflating in the background, and all I could hear was the blood rushing in my ears. "Riley Thompson, you listen to me!" "Thompson, you..." Mom snapped, her voice no longer sweet, the mic dangling in her hand. She was inches away now, her lavender perfume, the same one she'd worn since I was a kid, the scent of bedtime stories and school lunches, hitting me like a memory I didn't want. "You're embarrassing this family, standing there like you're too good for us." Her words were venom, each one a jab at the little girl who'd once begged for her approval. I held her gaze, my voice low but steady. "I'm not the one making a scene, Mom. You planned this." Her eyes widened, a flash of guilt buried under rage. "Planned? This is about Jordan's future. You've got no kids, no husband. What's that money for if not family?" The crowd gasped, the personal attack landing like a gut punch. I felt the tug to back down, to smooth it over like always, but that $150,000, my fortress, my proof, burned in my mind. I wasn't their piggy bank. Before I could respond, Mom lunged forwards, her hand swinging fast. The slap cracked across my cheek, sharp and hot, sending my glasses skittering into the grass with a soft thud. The backyard went dead silent, not even a cricket daring to chirp. My face stung, the lavender scent now choking, a twisted echo of childhood hugs gone sour. I touched my cheek, the heat rising under my fingers, and for a split second, I was 8 again, crying when Mom scolded me for outshining Jordan's report card. The crowd held its breath, Jordan frozen, Sarah's hands over her mouth, Aunt Karen's teacup trembling. Mike's phone kept rolling, the red dot unblinking. I could have screamed, could have thrown their betrayal back in their faces. "I paid for this party, I saved Dad's shop, I carried you all." But the words stuck. This wasn't about winning an argument. It was about surviving their script. I bent down, slow and deliberate, picking up my glasses from the grass. The lenses were smudged, but I slid them on, the world sharpening again. Every eye was on me, waiting for me to crack. Instead, I straightened, voice calm as ice. "Happy birthday, Jordan," I said, loud enough for the mic to catch. "Hope you enjoy the party I paid for." The crowd inhaled sharply, whispers erupting. Did she just say that? What'd she mean? I turned, my sandals crunching on the gravel path, and walked toward the driveway, their stares burning my back. Mom called after me, "Riley, get back here!" But I didn't stop. The lavender scent faded, replaced by the warm night air, and with each step, the weight of their expectations lifted just a fraction. In my car, doors locked, I pulled out my phone, hands still shaking. Notifications flooded the screen. Clients, colleagues, even a local reporter catching the live stream. I ignored them, scrolling to Harlan's name. My boss, the guy who'd slipped that asset protection clause into my contract. The one who'd seen this coming. I hit call, and his voice came through, steady and sharp. "Riley, I saw the feed. You okay?" I leaned back, the leather seat cool against my neck, the sting on my cheek still fresh. "Not really," I admitted, voice low. "But I'm done playing their game." Harlan's pause was heavy, like he was weighing his next words. "Good. That clause we talked about? It's active now. They can't touch you or your money. You ready for what's next?" I glanced at the house, the party lights glowing through the trees, and felt the shift inside me, like a lock clicking into place. If you've ever been humiliated by the people who should have your back, hit that like button. It's not just a click. It's a nod to standing your ground. Trust me, what's coming next is where it all flips. The Atlanta skyline glowed outside my condo's balcony, the city lights blurring as I leaned against the railing, Harlan's voice still ringing in my ears from the call. "They can't touch you, or your money," he'd said, his words a lifeline after Mom's slap and the backyard showdown. Inside, my phone buzzed nonstop, notifications piling up from that damn live stream. Clients, coworkers, even a local news outlet picking up the viral clip. The sting on my cheek had faded, but the betrayal burned hotter. My family's ambush playing on a loop in my head. I sipped a glass of bourbon, the warmth steadying me as I stared at the skyline I'd earned. $150,000 in savings, a corner office, a life built without their approval. The party lights from my parents' cul-de-sac were a distant memory now, but the fight wasn't over. Harlan's text glowed on my screen. "Board meeting tomorrow. Clause is live. Call when you're ready." Ready for what? I wasn't sure, but I knew I wasn't backing down. My phone lit up again, this time a video call from Harlan. I answered, setting the bourbon down, and his face filled the screen. Gray suit, sharp eyes, the bank's sleek conference room behind him. Dad's auto shop client, Mr. Dawson, sat beside him, looking grim. The crowd from the party was patched in on speaker, their murmurs faint but tense. "Riley," Harlan started, voice calm but steel-edged. "I've got your folks and Jordan here. The live stream's gone viral, 2,000 views and climbing. It's not just family drama anymore." He leaned forward, his tone dropping. "That clause in your contract, the one protecting your assets from family coercion, it's active. I'm invoking it. Your savings is locked, and I'm prepared to pull my 35% stake from Frank's shop if this doesn't get resolved. They need to make this right." The crowd's murmurs spiked. Mom's gasp, Dad's low curse. I pictured them in the backyard, the cake uncut, the band long gone. Dad's voice broke through, shaky but loud. "Riley, honey, let's talk this out. No need for Harlan to get involved." His plea was desperate, a far cry from his earlier swagger. Mom jumped in, her voice wobbling on the edge of tears. "We didn't mean for things to go this far, sweetheart. Just come back. We'll sort it out as a family." The words sounded sincere, but I knew that tone, polished from years of smoothing over their demands. I leaned back, the city lights reflecting in my glass. "You planned to take my savings in front of everyone," I said, calm and cold. "You don't get to backpedal now." The crowd hushed, and I caught Jordan muttering, "She's blowing this out of proportion." Typical, dodging accountability while Mom and Dad played good cop. Harlan cleared his throat. Frank, Linda, you've got 48 hours to issue a public apology to Riley, on the same stream you used to ambush her. Or I call an emergency board meeting. My stake in your shop isn't charity, it's leverage. And right now, it's on the table. Mom's voice cracked, spiraling into hysteria. You can't do this, Harlan. That shop's our livelihood. Riley, tell him to stop. We're sorry, okay? We didn't mean it. Her words tumbled out, frantic, but I caught the edge of calculation like she was still playing the crowd. Dad jumped in, softer now. We'll make it right, Riley. No need for lawyers or boardrooms. Just say you'll drop this. I almost believed them, their voices tugging at old loyalties, until my phone pinged again. A screenshot from the live stream's comments. Mom's already planning to talk sense into Riley later. Sent by Sarah, Jordan's girlfriend, with a winking emoji. A red herring. They were playing contrite now, but still scheming behind my back. I set the phone down, my resolve like granite. I'm not pressing charges, I said, voice steady. But I'm not coming back to fix your mess either. Harlan nodded on the screen, his eyes sharp. 48 hours, folks. Clock's ticking. The call ended, the crowd's murmurs fading to static. I picked up my bourbon, the glass cool against my palm, and scrolled through the notifications. The video had hit 5,000 views, comments flooding in. Riley's a badass. Family doesn't do that. Even a DM from a local reporter, interested in your side for a story. The world was watching, and for once, it wasn't their narrative winning. I leaned against the railing, the city humming below, and felt the shift. My fortress wasn't just my savings. It was the line I'd drawn. They'd pushed, and I'd pushed back harder. But something told me this wasn't the end of their fight. The Atlanta skyline shimmered beyond my condo's balcony, a glittering reminder of everything I'd built as I leaned back in my chair, the bourbon's warmth still lingering in my throat. Harlan's ultimatum, 48 hours, folks, clock's ticking, had left the family scrambling, their pleas and fake apologies fading to static when I ended the call. The live stream's fallout was exploding now, my phone buzzing like a hornet's nest. 5,000 views had climbed to 10, comments flooding in from strangers, clients, even a reporter sniffing for a story. I'd drawn my line, kept my $150,000 savings safe, and watched their ambush crumble under Harlan's threat to pull his stake from Dad's shop. But the weight of it all, the slap, Mom's venom, Jordan's betrayal, still sat heavy, like a bruise I couldn't ignore. I swirled the bourbon, the ice clinking, and let the city's hum wash over me. My phone lit up again. A text from Mr. Dawson, the auto shop's biggest client. Frank, I'm out. Can't do business with a family pulling stunts like that. Contract's void. My breath caught. Dad's shop, already shaky, relied on Dawson's fleet for half its revenue. This wasn't just a hit. It was a knockout punch. I should have felt guilty, but all I felt was the weight of years. Every time I'd bailed them out, wired money for their crises, only to be erased or ambushed. My phone pinged again, this time the family group chat blowing up. Aunt Karen. Riley, how could you let this happen? Cousin Mike. Shop's screwed, nice going. Dad. Call me now. Then Mom, a voice note, her voice shrill. Riley, I collapsed after you left, fainted right on the patio. You happy now? I didn't play it twice. Her theatrics were old news. A tantrum dressed up as a heart attack. I muted the chat, the notifications piling up like leaves in a storm. Another message cut through. This one from Sarah, Jordan's girlfriend. Riley, I know it's a mess, but I'm with you. Jordan's been dodging bills for months. I didn't sign up for this. Her words were a jolt, a crack in the family's united front. I pictured her at the party, her ponytail bouncing as she'd tried to play peacemaker, but now she was breaking ranks. I didn't reply. Trust was thin these days, but her message sparked something, a flicker of validation. The world was seeing their game, and not everyone was buying it. I set the phone down, the screen still glowing with comments. Riley's a queen for standing up. Family doesn't pull that crap. The video was at 15,000 views now, trending on local X pages, hashtags like #FamilyDrama and #RileyFightsBack popping off. My name was out there, my story no longer theirs to rewrite. I stood, stretching, and poured another splash of bourbon, the bottle glinting in the balcony's dim light. The city sprawled below, alive and indifferent, and for the first time all night, I felt the weight lift. Just a little. I'd carried their expectations for years. Wired cash for Jordan's wrecks, Dad's shop, Mom's emergencies, always the invisible fixer. Now, with the shop teetering and their masks slipping, that burden was theirs to bear. A new text popped up, this time from Tara, my assistant. Heard you're getting a big shout-out at Monday's board meeting. Regional VPs dropping hints. I laughed, a small, sharp sound, and took a sip, the bourbon smooth against the chaos. A promotion? After all this, it felt like a middle finger to their narrative. Riley, the selfish spinster with her empty condo. I'd built my fortress, and it was holding strong. The skyline twinkled, my phone buzzing with more notifications. 20,000 views now. A local news outlet DMing for an interview. I let it sit, savoring the quiet of my own space. The family's chaos wasn't my problem anymore, but something told me they weren't done fighting. Monday's board meeting loomed, and whatever was coming, I'd be ready. Monday morning, the Atlanta skyline sparkled through the floor-to-ceiling windows of First Regional Bank's boardroom, a stark contrast to the chaos of Saturday's backyard blowout. I sat at the polished mahogany table, my navy blazer crisp, my glasses cleaned of the smudges from that night. The viral live stream, now at 50,000 views, had turned my family's ambush into a public spectacle, costing Dad's shop its biggest contract and exposing their game to the world. Harlan's ultimatum, backed by the asset protection clause in my contract, had left them scrambling, but I'd felt the first taste of freedom on my balcony, bourbon in hand, knowing I'd held my ground. Tara's text about a possible promotion had been the cherry on top, and now, as the board members filed in, I straightened, ready for whatever came next. Harlan, sharp in his gray suit, stood at the head of the table, his voice steady. Riley Thompson's leadership secured a $5 million portfolio this quarter, saving local businesses and boosting our regional standing. Effective immediately, she's promoted to regional vice president. The room erupted in applause, colleagues nodding my way, their respect a quiet balm to Saturday's wounds. My bonus check, $20,000, was wired that afternoon, and I donated it to a local women's shelter, a nod to those building their own fortresses. My $150,000 savings stayed untouched, my line in the sand unyielding. As I left the boardroom, Tara grinned, slipping me a coffee. "Knew you'd crush it, boss." I smiled, the weight of years, carrying my family's crises, swallowing their jabs, finally lifting. By noon, my phone pinged with a text from Dad. "Riley, I'm sorry. We crossed a line. Shop's hurting, but that's on us." His words were heavy, no excuses, a rare crack in his pride. I didn't reply. Not yet. Then came Mom's voice note, her voice shrill and unhinged. "You think you're better than us, Riley? Running to your boss, ruining our name. You'll regret this." I deleted it, her rant a tired echo of Saturday's venom. Jordan texted next, short and bitter. "Nice move, sis. Hope you're happy." Aunt Karen and Cousin Mike piled on in the group chat. "Family doesn't air dirty laundry. Shop's tanking because of you." I blocked their numbers, one by one, my finger steady. For Jordan, I made one last move. Wired $500 for a month of therapy, a parting gift with a note. "Figure yourself out." Then I blocked him too, his number joining the others in the void. Their words couldn't reach me anymore. 6 months later, the fallout had reshaped the landscape. Dad's shop limped along, propped up by a smaller client base, but the family was fractured. Jordan and Sarah split after therapy sessions forced him to face his freeloading. Her choice, not mine, though I wasn't surprised. Mom's rants faded to silence, her pride stung by the public backlash. The viral video, now at 100,000 views, had sparked X posts and think pieces, with hashtags like #StandYourGround trending. I'd turned down the reporter's interview, letting the story speak for itself. At the bank, my new role meant longer hours, but a new kind of family, colleagues who celebrated my wins, not my wallet. Tara threw a small office party for my promotion, complete with cupcakes and a mock VP crown. I laughed, the sound lighter than it had been in years, surrounded by people who saw me, not my savings. Looking back, the lesson hit hard. Blood doesn't make family. Family is who shows up, who respects your boundaries, who doesn't demand your soul to prop up their ego. My fortress, $150,000, a corner office, a life carved on my terms, wasn't just a bank balance. It was proof I didn't need their script to thrive. I stood on my balcony that night, the Atlanta skyline glowing, and raised a glass to the future I'd built, not the one they'd tried to take. If this story hit you in the feels, smash like, drop your thoughts below, share it with a friend who gets it, and subscribe for the next chapter. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming on the channel.